Hello, everybody. Spider here once again. Coming soon podcast coming to you from San Antonio, Texas, with my guest, of course, local to San Antonio, Ray Lopez. Sir, how are you doing today?
Hey, Mario. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on today. I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and it's Monday too, right? You can't go wrong, man. I mean, I had a case of the Mondays this morning, but I'm doing a lot better now. So looking forward to the rest of the week.
Right on. Yeah.
But of course, I mean, I put you on here. I mean, you are an attorney. You're also an author. So this is the reason why, of course, I invited you on here to get a little feedback on your published book, Lockup. And, but I want to start a little bit far back. I mean, for yourself, I mean, born and raised here in San Antonio, correct?
I am born and raised on the west side my whole life, pretty much up until I went to college, and then traveled around Texas for a little while for school and for different jobs I took, and found my way back home.
Nice, man. And of course, I mean, growing up, I mean, I grew up on the west side. I'm actually off of Joe McMullen and Commerce, back in the 80s, so I grew up out there. Let me ask you this, man. When you say west side, what do you consider west side, man?
Well, I was off General McMullen and at 90 right there going towards John F. Kennedy. So, there's like the inner west side and then there's the far west side. I consider, I guess, like anywhere inside 410 going towards like downtown by like Lanier, west side. I'd say that's the west side.
No, for sure. No, that's the reason I'm asking. I had cousins that went to Lanier, and they're like, "Man, we're west side. You're out there, But yeah, it's a little family friendly rivalry. But yeah, man. So, what high school did you go to? Let me ask you that.
Yeah, John F. Kennedy.
Okay, cool, man. What year did you graduate?
2001.
2001. Okay, I was a little bit older, man. I mean, I went to Kennedy High School my freshman year. Parents sold the house. We ended up going. I finished it off at Thomas Jefferson High School, so we lived right there by Woodland Park. But I mean, of course, all my friends, everybody was still out there by Kennedy, so I'd be out there all the time. Now, of course, I mean, I am older than you, man. I mean, when I was in high school, I mean, skateboarding. I mean, I still do it, but I mean, back then that was a thing. What was high school life for you? I mean, what were you involved in during the 4 years?
Well, I did kind of some nerd stuff. I guess it goes with my lawyer thing. I did the Math and Science Academy and things like that. But from when I was 16 years old, I started working. I was working at that old Kmart where the police headquarters used to be.
Oh yeah,
and that really took up pretty much most of my extracurricular time. Once I hit 16, I had a part-time job there, and I needed money. I wanted a car, that sort of deal.
No, for sure. And I think that's the work ethic, because same thing with my mom, my parents. If we wanted something, they're like, you got to work for it. So, all we could do is go get summer jobs, but I definitely instilled that work ethic in us.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted a car, and they're like, well, get a part-time job and get to work. Like, it's not going to work. I'm like, okay.
Man. And of course, wrestling, man, because this is a book that you actually published on the profession. So when did you become a fan? Like, what was it for you? What was it that you saw that you were like, okay, you know what? I like this.
Sure. I've been a fan since I was a little kid. I think the moment when it really took hold for me was when I first saw it live. It's a story that's kind of got a little darkness to it. Is that it was my birthday was coming around the corner, but my grandfather was nearing the end of his life. He was in the hospital. He'd been in there for some time. It was clear to the adults, even I realized it at the time, that he was about to pass away, and he did, right shortly before my birthday. So my parents didn't feel like it was a good time to have a birthday party, like in the traditional sense, like we usually have every year with all the family coming over and all that jazz. Like, they just weren't up for it, and totally understandable. So they said, well, WWE was coming into town, and I think it was like the following week. It's like, oh, well, WWE's in town. We saw there's still some tickets available. Well, how about instead of having a party, we take, we all go to the wrestling show and watch WWE, because I was into it. I had all the monitos. I had the sheets, the comforter, all that jazz. I was loving it. I was like, yeah, that sounds like a lot better than a birthday party to me. To be perfectly honest, So I was like, yeah, absolutely, let's do that. And then I went to that first event, and it just captured my imagination, my heart ever since then.
Man, and of course, I mean, you said you grew up with them, but you still have some behind you, right? Is that what those are? The action figures?
I still do. I still have a little collection of them scattered around. So I did keep them. They are cherished items from my childhood.
Oh yeah, yeah. I always tell people because they're like, man, why didn't you keep your toys? I'm like, man, we played with them till there were no more, man. They get destroyed. We put a lot of miles on those things, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, let me ask you. I mean, wrestling because of course, parents, the situation they turned it around. You were able to go out there with the family. I mean, do you recall who was actually wrestling that night?
I remember it was like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I think the Ultimate
Nice.
Warrior was there. Jake the Snake Roberts. I don't think Hogan was on the card. It was like a house show in the, I think it was the one I want to say like 1990-ish type time frame. So that pretty much WWE roster. But I mean, I think Hacksaw and Jake the Snake really, those are the ones that really pop out in my head, in my memory from that.
Nice, bro. No, no, for sure, man. And of course, I mentioned that before we jumped on here. I mean, for us, growing up right on the west side, we grew up. We grew up on the east side. We moved. I think I was like 5 years old when we moved out there by couples in San Fernando. But for our John McMullen, I'm sorry, in San Fernando. But that was one of our pastimes. My dad. I mean, we used to watch westerns. We used to watch Kung Fu theater back in the day, and of course pro wrestling. That was our thing. And him doing floors. He was a floor finisher. Worked for Seidel Floor Finishing Company, like out there on the west side. Been there for years. And we got a lot of opportunities, or he got a lot of opportunities to work for celebrities, for athletes, and some of them were actually wrestlers in the Southwest Championship Wrestling. Back then. Scott Casey. I mean, he did work for Wahoo McDaniel. I mean, they were like in Belverde. They were out in the outskirts. And
Yeah, they had a really good territory back in the day in San
oh
Antonio. Kind of
yes,
underrated, but really good for those who remember it.
no, yeah. I mean, those were good times. I still find the videos on YouTube. They're still floating around. So I'm like, man, good memories because of course, before WWE basically took over, I mean, they had every wrestling promotion had its territory, like you said. The Von Erichs were up north. Southwest Championship Wrestling was out here, Central, South Texas. But yeah, that was always something for us that we had in common. So going to wrestling shows was always a perk. Got to hang out with that and enjoy it. But for yourself, man, let me ask you: did you ever consider getting into pro wrestling?
No, not as. I mean, not really. I didn't think it just seemed like too far fetched a dream. If anything, I would wanted to have been like a booker or a writer. Coming up with the storylines and be part of the creative team. I guess that would have been my dream more so than being in the ring.
Oh, nice.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been able to be in the ring with some of those giants in there and live to tell about it. But I always wanted to be part of the creative team. That would have been a dream.
Okay, cool. And I mean, I can definitely see that, especially after having published this book. Because I mean, when did that come into fruition? Like, what were you doing in life that you were like, what? Let me start writing, or were you already writing? How did that start?
Yeah, well, when COVID first hit, I was kind of bouncing off the walls looking for something to do. You know what I mean? It was a complete change, as we're all aware of it. I went from, going down to the courthouse every day to like not going at all. Don't come down here. We're going to do things on Zoom. It took a while to figure out how Zoom works. And even when it is on Zoom, there's a lot of waiting time. So I had like more time on my hands than I'd ever had because, I live in the pre-COVID days. I was down there at the courthouse and at the office, and it just changed everything. So I ended up with a lot more time in my hand, and I was kind of bouncing off the walls. And then I was figuring I needed a project to keep me sane. Yeah. So then I really did a deep dive into wrestling, was reading books, listening to all the podcasts, watching old videos, watching the current stuff, watching documentaries, doing a really deep dive into it. And it was like, I need to come up with a book. And then slowly but surely we came up with ideas and started writing and put pen to paper. And that's how that kind of the whole thing came about. Is I had extra time on my hands. Like, this is a great project to give back to wrestling. I've always loved it since I was a fan. I thought I could present a unique book that's nobody else has done anything like it. And I think the fans, if they give it a chance, would really enjoy it. So that's kind of how the project came together.
Yeah. And of course, when you said the, something that nobody else had seen or read, I mean, what exactly do you mean? Or do we have to, I mean, obviously everybody, go by the book, but I mean, is it like different chapters, or did you go like more in the background type?
Well, yeah. When I was doing my research, I was finding out usually professional wrestling books fall into one of two categories to me: either biographical, whether that's autobiographical or a biographer writing about a particular wrestler and their life and their whole story, or historical, talking about a period of time, the territories time, or the time WWE was just becoming national, or something like that. So I wanted to do something completely different. So what we did is we came up with 13 different chapters. They're all standalone chapters, so you can read them in any order that you want. And they all talk about different aspects of professional wrestling and the greater world. For instance, there's one that we call Race in the Ring, that talks about wrestling and professional wrestling and the treatment of minorities and how they've been treated and how they've been portrayed on TV over the course of the years and what we've all seen, and going through a little bit of history. We also have one called Shattering Glass, which talks about the women's evolution and discusses the treatment of women from, when they were just valets and basically eye candy to where they're at now, serious competitors, serious time, main eventers, treated with all the legitimacy in the world, which was, it took a long way to get there. Then we have a lot of fun chapters. One chapter is about football and professional wrestling, but I made it in the way of a fantasy football draft. So there's 4 teams, each represent a different decade, and they all have to, draft their fantasy football team. So we're saying who's drafting what position, who's going to be your quarterback, who's your wide receiver, why, who's going to be your lineman, things of that nature. We have one on Hollywood called the Kaufmans. It's a fake award show named after the legendary Andy Kaufman that has a bunch of different categories talking about Hollywood and professional wrestling and how the two of them mix. And then there's also categories that's just pure wrestling. One that I'm really proud of is called The Math and Science of a Wrestler. And this one, we dissect a lot of 30 wrestlers' careers, a lot of the most famous people you've heard of: The Rock, John Cena, Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, the main guys that people have heard of. And we calculated, I was wondering one day, how much time did, say Ric Flair, was he an active wrestler? Because, you could say, I had a 25-year career. But, wrestlers take off a lot of time, which is understandable. They take it off for injury. They take it off for switching promotions and non-compete. They take it off, for vacation just because they need a break from it. And, who can blame them? So it's like, let's calculate all the time that they were actually an active competitor. So we figured out for all these wrestlers, how long were they an active competitor? And then we figured out, how long did they hold a specific belt? How long were they a major champion? How long were they a middle champion? How long were they a lower-end champion? How long were they a tag champion? And we put all these stats and charts together for the fans to kind of contrast and compare. So you can compare, Rey Mysterio's career with CM Punk, or you could compare, Roman Reigns to Bruno Sammartino. Yeah. And there's 30 legendary wrestlers in there that we took a lot of time figuring out how long have these guys been actually active wrestlers in the big leagues, and how long of that time do they spend, holding gold, and which gold do they held, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, man. So you actually did a lot of homework, man.
A lot of research went into this project. I can tell you too much, a lot of man hours, a lot of research, a lot of cross-referencing, things like that. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Man, and I was gonna say too, because when you talk about cross reference, I've never thought about that, but there's always talks about like, this wrestler took the song or this move from this wrestler, but you never think about the as far as the title holds, the way they won. You know what I mean? Like they simulate a lot more wrestlers of past, so that's actually interesting. I'd be interested to read about that, because there's a lot right there.
And we break down the process in like kind of the intros before you get to the graphs and the pages leading up to it about, here's how I'm calculating it, here's why, here's what I'm considering a belt, here's what I'm not considering a belt. Because there's a lot of glitches. It's the world of professional wrestling. There's a lot of stuff that you have to we need to figure out a solution. For instance, Harlem Heat, Booker T, legendary wrestler, tag team champion back in his WCW days. We got to count all those. WCW was a major company, in my opinion, especially during his run. Well, sometimes WCW would do it because they had so many TV tapings where they would lose the belt and they would win the belt, but then they would they won the belt, but then they the next day they would lose the belt, but it counted for 17 days. But in reality, they didn't have the belt that long. And so you got to kind of figure out, which one are we counting? How are we counting it? Well, we explain it all in there. We explain the methodology of why we're counting it the way we're counting, and really, so people don't have to get in the weeds. We've done the work for you. It's just there for y'all to enjoy.
Man, that's interesting, because I think a while back something had popped up on the Freebirds about how they won the title, but because of the TV timeline, it went backwards, so they were like -6 days or something like that.
Yeah, some of that happens. There's no way it can be a negative. You can't have a negative days title. To me, it just doesn't make any logical sense. So I take it as, okay, well, when the promotion recognize them, and when the promotion say they're not champion anymore. Because, even though the actual real days are different, how are you going to have a negative title reign? And that does happen. It's just, we had to create rules to like get it all squared, and so everybody's on the same page. But there's also considerations like what title reigns count as major titles and which ones don't. Is that a major title? Is that not a major title? Even up to today with Chris Jericho called himself the Nueve. I mean, I'm sorry, those Ring of Honor titles. I love Jericho. There's a whole chapter about Jericho. That's how much I love him. But those two titles with ROH, they're not. I mean, that's not the same as holding a WWE World Title. It's not. Right. Not the AEW one. You got credit for that one, but the ROH ones, I'm sorry, I just can't do that.
And I agree because it'd be like for me it would be kind of like the UFC fighter. I mean they're regional champions. They've held title through the regional circuit, but once you go to the UFC, I mean that's a title that counts. So you can't really be like, hey, well I had the title here, but I also won 3 over here. Like nobody, not to say nobody cares, but it's just not the same. It's not the same league, different
right.
level.
It's not the same level of accomplishment. And it's so we try to rectify all that. And the harder you go, the further you go back in time, the harder it kind of gets, especially with somebody like Ric Flair. He's acknowledged as obviously the 16-time world champion. That's what the WWE is holding out. But really, some people say he got like 23. Some people say he's got 16. It just depends on what you count and why you count them. So we have a different number that's not WWE's. It's not the 23 that some people say, somewhere in the middle. But it depends on which title reigns count and which ones don't.
No, for sure. Because even I mentioned earlier, growing up watching the Von Erichs, World Class Championship Wrestling. I mean, AWA, the titles used to go through every promotion, so they always carried that same title because it was held up high, So they just got to defend it and go to other promotions and keep doing that, But yeah, I mean, that's all everything that you're dropping on here. I mean, it's definitely interesting because there's you like you said, you already did all the homework. All we got to do is buy the book and read up,
Yeah, I think people are going to find, even the most hardcore fans are going to find stats and stuff in there that they didn't know, and it'll help them with their arguments, I guess, with their with their wrestling friends. Or if you're a complete novice, there's some introductory stuff in there. One of the chapters is called the Presidents of Professional Wrestling, and this one, like every 4 years, we're saying, all right, who's the top guy in professional wrestling? Say in 1980, then we go to 1984, and every 4 years, so on, and we pick 2 guys who are going to be or girls. Who are going to be our candidates. We say why. Everybody's got their campaign. They got their reasons why. Then we pick a winner of who's going to be in charge. So you kind of can go back. It's got some history aspect to it. You go back. We talk about some of the great aspects. But like I wanted it to be different, so we formed it in a different way. Those chapters, there's 2 of them. We're kind of forming them as like, here's a political campaign. Here's Ric Flair's campaign. Here's the campaign for Hogan. Who's the champion in this given, or who's the president in this given time period.
No, and let me ask you, because earlier, I mean, of course, you mentioned the Rings of Honor, of course, the belt, not holding its ground when it comes to the WWE. But I mean, so you consider WCW and WWE both at the top, right? So the titles that they both shared or owned at one time.
I would consider WCW to be a national company, and along with WWE, I would say they were close to them. And I would consider AEW too.
Okay.
At that level right now. So I have criteria that I kind of listed in the book. I think some of the criteria is like, do you have national exposure? Do you have a national TV audience and brand? Do you have household names? Do you have some names that people know that even aren't wrestling fans? You can go up to the random Joe Schmo at the supermarket and say, hey, do you like, John Cena? Yeah, he's a household name. I would say AEW's got those with Chris Jericho and some others that are, crossed over in the mainstream. And then the last one is a tricky one. Like, are you averaging at least 5,000 people at your shows? 5,000 is not a huge number. WWE says they're getting like 16,000, 12,000, whatever an arena holds basically nowadays. But I think 5,000 is a fair number. If you can bring in 5,000, you got national TV exposure or the equivalent in this day and age, or some type of national deal to get your stuff out there. And you got household names. I consider you a major league.
No, I agree. I mean, especially the count, because it goes back to, I mean, that can be said with a lot of like boxing, MMA promotions, too, because a lot of them, they don't have TV time. They're still building the brand. They got fighters, but a lot of them are still making their way up. And it's pretty much what we call like a feeder company. Like it's a company that's getting these guys ready for the next one, and then that one's getting them ready for the big show. So it's got levels. Not to say they're bad promotions, they're great. It's just, I mean, as far as when it comes to TV time or putting their product out there, man, it's harder, I mean, even with social media, it'd be easy for me to say, oh, I'm gonna have a wrestling match. I have YouTube, I have 1 million followers, but even then, like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't hold a lot of ground. I mean, you still got to go on TV, you still got to make it a whole household name, like you said. You know, it's a lot of homework and a lot of footwork, I would say.
Yeah, and I love independent wrestling. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I'm,
same.
I'm a sponsor for River City Wrestling. You see me advertising on there for my law practice and for the book. But everybody acknowledges it's not the same as WWE. I mean, they're working their way to try to get into that thing. Everybody knows it. I would love to chronological or be a kind of almost a historian for the independent leagues around there, but it's so much harder to find information on them. There's no it gets when your promotion gets smaller. WWE obviously there's a wealth of information. There's so many sources you can cross reference with this one, with that one, with the books, with the websites, with everything. It just gets a little more difficult. That's why in this book we're really focusing on the national scene, which is like kind of the name Lockup, which is we're having professional wrestling lock up with mainstream American culture, basically.
Okay, and I was going to ask you about that. So that's where the name comes from.
Yeah, and I was also, I'm an attorney, and part of my practice is criminal defense. So maybe like a subtle Easter egg into that. But I know people might see it and think it's a book about wrestling and criminal behavior in the professional wrestling community, but it's not that. It's really just the lockup of the collar and elbow tie up, which symbolizes professional wrestling and symbolizes like the mainstream pop culture and kind of them coming together.
Okay, cool, man. And I mean, of course, I mean, like you said, I mean, I myself follow indie wrestling. I'm when it comes to my podcast, I mean, I cover a lot of indie films, indie music, and that falls in the same crack. I mean, I support everybody that's building their brand. They're putting in the work, and of course, trying to make it bigger than life. Because it's tough. I mean, I wish I could say I could just go out there and get as many followers as I could or want to. But you definitely got to build it up. You got to build a name. People gotta actually want to go see it, go to your shows or your music or your band, and actually be able to support. But, you gotta start somewhere, like you said, and a lot of these indie wrestling promotions are doing such, they've been around for years, and, all it takes is that one opportunity and they're on it, they're up there.
Yeah, and I know, I mean, they've had great success and they can make it to the big leagues. I mean, Roxanne Perez is the most recent example comes to mind. She did killer this past weekend. She gave a great performance. I remember the day she was back here in San Antonio at River City Wrestling doing shows there. She worked her way through the indies around Texas, because being a radio girl. And now she's killing it in the WWE scene. So, yeah, I mean, everybody's out there on the indies. Keep working at it, man. It can happen.
Yeah, and I know for the most part, I mean, a lot of the guys that I follow and I actually, have met out there, I mean, they, it's like they wrestle like 3 days a week if they have to, I mean, the more you get out there, the more people see you. I mean, you're a brand, so you got to go out there and represent yourself and let, it's like a buddy of mine had told me, they're like, man, well, it doesn't matter what you do. If people don't know about it, they're not going to know, so you got to go out there and let them know like who you are, what you're doing, why, and, get those followers going.
Absolutely.
Man, let me ask you this. When it comes to, I mean, I mentioned earlier as far as like if you ever had inspirations of being a wrestler, but I mean, you actually had a commercial, man. I said, why didn't you get in the ring in the commercial, man?
Well, one, I'm not a trained wrestler at all, so I kind of feel like, well, I don't deserve to be in the ring because I haven't done that. So there's a lot of hesitation in that, and I'm a 40-year-old lawyer, so what am I going to do there? I don't want to jump in the ring and be like Vince McMahon and tear my tricep. I didn't get in the ring afterwards for a picture. We took a picture with the wrestlers, and they were all really great and nice people down there. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm not. I think I'm those days of me trying to jump off the top ropes are not happening. That's not happening.
No, cool, man. And I did recognize the guys that were on there. I mean, of course, through the indie world. So that was pretty cool that you were able to use, locals, of course, But I mean, they get that opportunity. I mean, that's what it's about, is getting exposure. So that's pretty cool of you to use them, So
yeah, whatever I can do to help out and support them and sponsor their things, I'm all about it.
No, for sure, man. Now, let me ask you. Earlier, you were talking about, if you were to get into pro wrestling, being behind the scenes as far as like the writer, getting making things happen. If you had an opportunity now, like say if there's an indie wrestling promotion out there and they're like, man, we need somebody. I mean, would that be something that you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to take my hand at the creational aspect of it. I know it takes a lot of time and I do have a full career, but if I could manage it, I'd love to take a hand of crafting up some storylines. I think I'd be definitely interested in that.
No, for sure. Because it's. I mean, I'm sure you're busy. You have a career, so of course, But if you can get away and actually do a couple shows or help out, man, I'm pretty. That'd be pretty dope, man. And I say that because, of course, all the homework and everything that you have to do for this book, man, because it's one of those things like I can easily say, oh yeah, you know what, I'm gonna research, but I mean, it's a lot of work. You literally have to go out there, and I'm sure. Having worked as an attorney, you've done a lot of that where you have to research and backtrack and make sure everything lines up and is correct.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing research a long time, mostly in like academic stuff.
Yeah.
But so I just kind of took a lot of the skills that I know from that and turned them over to professional wrestling, and took them into serious, uber nerd them, uber dorked out on it. But I think the final product is people are going to enjoy it. When I can't see people wanting to sit down and do what I did as far as that labor. It was laborious, it was time consuming, it was tedious, but hey, we've done it all for you, and we got the numbers and the facts for you.
Nice, man. And tell us, where can people purchase the book?
Sure, it's available on Amazon right now, Barnes and Nobles. If you're local in San Antonio, you can go down to the Twig, Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. Their library also is carrying it. And you go straight. You can also order it straight from the publisher's website at mascotbooks.com. Just look for Lockup. If anybody wants a signed copy, you can find me on Twitter at Lucha Lockup. As my Twitter handle, and slide into the DMs, and we can figure out how to get you a signed copy. But Amazon and Barnes and Nobles are I guess those are the most easiest places for people. Right. But hey, if you're down in the Pearl, go to Twig, check them out. Or if you're down on the West Side, go to the Guadalupe Art Center. They have it as well.
Yeah. And of course, and when it comes to the book, I mean, is it only available on paper format, or do you have it on digital as well?
We have it on digital as well. You can get it on digital on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles.
Okay, cool, man.
Copies available. Yeah, you could put it on your ebook or your Kindle or however you enjoy books.
Oh yeah, me it'd probably be on my phone. That's probably why my eyesight's so bad. But need a bigger phone, man.
Yeah, I'm old school. I like smelling the paper and having it, having the books in my hand.
No, and I was gonna say, for the most part, I mean, when it comes to physical media, I'm still there. I'd rather have something in my hand to put and push play and enjoy. But the same thing with the book. I'd rather purchase one and actually have it here. That way I can just read it when I want and keep going. But
and the book is highly visual, so I would encourage people to get the hard copy. We have illustrations here. There's a local San Antonio illustrator artist. He came on board, and he did illustrations. So each one of the 13 chapters has some pretty cool illustrations for everybody to check out. There's graphs, there's charts, there's timetables, there's brackets. There's all kinds of things. So there's a lot of text and reading in there, but there's a lot more for that. So I also like to say this is a great book for people that I don't read books. If you're one of those people who say I don't read books, this is the book for you, because there's so much visual stuff in there. You can just sit there and enjoy and look at the illustrations, look at the charts, look at the graphs, look at the timelines, look at all the stuff we put together.
Yeah, and when it comes to chapters, how many pages on the book?
13 chapters. It's about 365 pages, something give or take. About 365 pages of 13 chapters broken into all those topics. We have one called the Tournament of Jericho, where we're basically saying what's the best time of Chris Jericho. So we take different eras of Jericho, say Jericho when he first entered WWE versus the AEW champion Chris Jericho, or things of that nature. We have different versions of Chris Jericho. We put them all together in a fake tournament, discuss Jericho, and say what, in my opinion, which one was the best of version of Jericho.
That's it.
So there's a lot of and we have a Match Hall of Fame one where we dissect some of the greatest matches, in my opinion, in professional wrestling history. We talk about the build. We talk about the actual match itself. We kind of talk about the implications afterwards. So there's a lot of stuff that's just pure wrestling stuff that wrestling fans will really dig into, and there's stuff that crosses over and talks into the greater world and that sort of deal.
No, for sure, man. And let me ask you, because I mean, Chris Jericho, I don't know if he started with ECW first, because when I was watching ECW way back when, he was in there. So I don't know if he started there, went to WCW, and then WWE. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to him, when he got to the WWE, I know they did that whole Y2K, I think it was like the year 2000, of course, when it comes to everything that was going on. But I mean, I didn't. As a fan, I enjoyed it, but I was just like, oh man, I guess just from seeing him from past events, I was like, I knew who he was, and definitely a fan, but now I'm gonna have to think about that and see for myself as far as which year or which era was my favorite, because he definitely had his up and down, I will say this though. I think for me, I'm a bigger fan when they turn heel or when people just don't like them because you still want to see them, you hate them. But let me ask you, on that being said, man, I mean, the whole John Cena thing, man, what are your thoughts on him crossing to the dark side, bro?
I mean, I kind of love it. I want to see what he's got. I want to see what he's got to say. I definitely want him to get. I don't know if he's going to give us a promo tonight or when he's going to get out there and explain it, his reasoning. But I mean, he's part of the Bad Science chapter. We have the graph that I talked about earlier, but there's also a graph that says a heel face. So for those 30 people, we broke down like how much of their career was spent as a heel and how much of their career was spent as a baby face. Some people you might be surprised were a little more heelish than longer, but John Cena is like he's like him, Rey Mysterio. There's a few handful of guys that spent 90% or more of their time as a pure baby face to come and switch it up at the last minute. Everybody knows he's retiring, do the heel thing. I like it. I like where they're going. It's excitement. They don't have to bring anybody else. They already got the players in place. It's something different. I think it's gonna be better than if they just went the other way and did babyface John versus babyface Cody, made the best man win, shaking hands, good sports. And it gives a lot more reason for the Rock's gonna get involved with somehow. Maybe they could do like last year and have a tag team match with Rock and John versus Cody, and I don't know who can he recruit. Right? Roman owes him a favor from when he tagged with Roman. Maybe he'll cash in that favor, and you can have Roman and Cody one night at WrestleMania or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. I like it a lot. I like that they're going in a different direction than anyone.
No, yeah, you see, and what you said earlier, I think I agree with, because if they would have gone the other way, it would have been like, okay, well, everybody's happy, they're both good guys. But with this, it opens up a lot more possibilities. You can, Roman Reigns, if he brings him in, I mean, against The Rock, that would be fun, because of course, they got that history. I mean, Cody, of course, I mean, he's comes from a family, a generation, with Dustin Rhodes, and of course, The Rock. I mean, everybody's like intertwined. Everybody's got history with family, so it kind of leads up to a little bit more of like people are going to be talking about it.
They'll lay the groundwork for some big matches to come. Yeah. I mean, I don't know when we're going to get Cody v. Rock. I mean, maybe next WrestleMania. Maybe they make us wait longer than that. I don't think it's going to be this WrestleMania, but you never know.
Yeah,
Rock and Roman. People have been wanting that one for years still. If they have trouble with SummerSlam, do they cash it in? I don't know. I mean, it's hard to see that that's not a WrestleMania match, because that match would be so huge. It would feel like it has to be on WrestleMania. But hey, they made SummerSlam 2 nights now. They put it in a stadium. They got a lot of tickets to sell. Maybe they cash it in.
No, I mean, cash it in. I agree. So I mean, I think they did good. As far as who came, it could have been you writing this. So but somebody else wrote it, and of course now they're going to play it out and see what happens. But yeah, when I saw that, I was like, man, it made me I don't know if the word is happy, but I was just like, oh, okay, cool, man. Like I was okay with that, because I was like, the other way, would have been cool. Like I said, I mean, two baby face going into the wrestling match, but I mean, this makes it a little bit more. There's more history now. Now it's like, okay, there's a little bit bad blood. Now it's gonna be fun, and it's made for TV, man. It's a little storyline, and we get to enjoy it. So looking forward.
Yeah, and it makes The Rock more evil, because he wants to be his final boss character, and he wants to be a heel. Whenever his music hits, like whatever town he's coming in, like they're gonna pop out of respect, and I can't blame him. I would pop too. I mean, he's The Rock. He's coming into your town. He's gonna entertain you, no matter what he's gonna say. It's like the place is gonna go crazy. But people really don't dislike him. But if he can get the ultimate babyface, the guy who's got the Make-A-Wish list record, the guy who's like ultimate babyface, he can get him to do some evil acts or have him under the thumb. Maybe that's what Rock needs to finally get the people to hate him, because man, Rock, he's just too entertaining. He's hard to hate.
You see, and that's the thing with the Rock too, because if you remember when he first started, he won the title. He was the youngest, and people hated him. He was supposed to be the good guy, but people just turned on him and he just went with it. They were like, well, hell, they're supposed to like you, now they hate you. So that's what sold tickets, and they just went with it, man. But I mean, I think it's when it happens organic, it's when I mean, of course, I enjoyed it a little bit more, because it's like, okay, they didn't even have to try, or it changes the script completely, So I mean, that's always interesting too, though.
That's exactly it. I mean, fans don't want to be told who's going to be
Yeah,
our next hero or something like that. They'll pick it based off who's entertaining us the most, who
yeah.
do we like, and you can't force it down the thing. You just have to change. If you were planning to go with guy X and guy Y is getting all the reactions, you got to pivot and go with guy Y. I mean, you have to follow the will of the people. It's what to do. I mean, the same
No,
thing happened with Roman when they tried to force him down the throat, and then
yeah,
they finally laid back and let him be the real Roman,
yeah.
and people finally embraced it because he was much better.
No, yeah, he's believable. I mean, he wasn't playing a character. And it's even if he was, I mean, he played it so well that people just kind of accepted it. But that's true though. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Somebody had asked me the day for yesterday. They were like, "Man, you still watching wrestling?" And I was like, "Man, I haven't seen it in a while." But when I saw that clip with John Cena, I was like, "Yeah, man, I gotta jump back on there, man." Makes it a little bit more interesting now. So I'll definitely be watching.
Yeah, but if nothing else, man, WrestleMania is going to be a must see. That's that even for the fat casual wrestling fans that check in every once in a while. I mean, they've always done a good job at WrestleMania. Sometimes better than others.
Yeah.
I got a feeling this is going to be a pretty good WrestleMania.
No, no, for sure, man. And of course, I mean, when it comes to wrestling, I mean, like you said, you're a fan of the indie circuit. So, I mean, when the WWE comes through here, I mean, are you usually out there? Do you go out there yourself?
Oh yeah, pretty much every time. I think last time I missed was years ago because I was out of town. But if I'm in town, then yeah, I'll be there. I'm
No,
going. I know they came by recently for Saturday night's main event. It was
yeah.
a very fun show. Everybody was eating. It was good time.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was there, and I'll be there for the SmackDown coming in the summer. And I'm fortunate enough. I'm gonna head out to Vegas for WrestleMania this year, so I'm
Oh,
really
nice.
looking forward to that. But yeah, every time I get a chance to see it live, I don't miss it.
No, no, I don't blame you, man. I mean, like I said, I mean, this is something we grew up with. Of course, when the opportunity pops up, I mean, we can make it. I mean, I definitely am out there too. I mean, I do cover combat sports, so boxing, MMA. Like I try to make it to as many as possible when I can. There's other
Yeah,
things that take my time, but I mean, but yeah, it's always fun to go out there and hang out and watch some entertainment, bro.
yeah. I mean, people can't crucify you if you don't make every single show or if you don't watch every single show like live. You can't do that. People have lives. People have things to do. But
Yeah,
I still follow it. I'll be honest. I watch a lot of it on delay
yeah,
because I'm busy. I'm doing things I can't really like revolve my life around professional wrestling, or my wife would not be my wife very much
yeah. I
longer.
was gonna say, yeah, you guys be wrestling at home, man. It wouldn't be good.
Yeah, yeah,
Man,
exactly.
and
Exactly.
of course, well, let me ask you. With that being said, I mean, obviously, I mean, the wife supports this, right? I mean, when you told her you were writing this, I mean, what were her thoughts? What did she say about that? Oh, think I lost him. Give it a few
Yeah,
seconds, guys. Oh, there you go. There you go.
yeah, she was real supportful. In fact, she came up with the idea for the cover of the book.
Oh, nice.
So she was really helpful in that. She was really supportive. She thought it was a cool idea. She knows how much I love wrestling, so she's been great. But yeah, the cover is kind of a take off that Loteria card. So
Yeah,
we wanted to get the Hispanic culture in there and all that stuff. So it's a take off El Mundo, but we'll put a
yeah,
wrestling kind of swag on it. And then my artist Eduardo Romero, he came up with that. He came up with the illustrations of the drawing. He came up with the book cover.
nice.
He brought it all to life with the pen and the paper. But yeah, she's been real supportive and huge part of this.
No, no. Is she a fan herself?
She knows more about wrestling than she probably ever wanted to.
Oh,
Um, so she's like she'll watch it with me and she'll go to shows if I want to. If I take her to a show, and she'll have fun. She likes it. She'll get into it. But like, will she watch it on her own? No, she won't do that.
no. Okay, okay, okay. Well, I mean, that's cool that she's able to go with you too, man. That way you guys can both enjoy it because, like I said, I mean, it's not for everybody, but I mean, growing up, we watched it as kids and even now, I think the whole Attitude Era was, of course, everybody was watching it. I mean, there's times where I would take breaks and I wouldn't see it for years, but with something big like what happened with Cena pops up, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's time to get back on there,
Well, I
enjoy
think
it.
when you watch it live as a whole, it's a little different of a
Yeah.
vibe. I mean,
Oh,
even if you're not
definitely.
watching the storylines, the WWE does a great job on catching people up. But even if you're totally lost, you don't know who any of the guys are or girls are, you come out there, you're gonna have a good time. They put on a great show. It's real entertaining. Just let yourself get into it, and if you feel like, okay, this is, if you don't have such a negative attitude about it, you're gonna like it. You're gonna have a good time.
No, no, for sure. And I agree with you because when it comes to anything sports, like I can watch it on TV, but I'd rather be there live. Live's a lot different. The energy's there. you can actually participate and yell and do what you got to do, you know. But I mean, at home you can do the same, but you know, neighbors would probably call the cops. You know, you don't want that.
Yeah,
You know.
there's just some things live gets you than not. I remember when I was a kid growing up, it was Bob Backlund when he was running for president back in the day.
Oh
He
yeah.
was in the San Antonio show when he was coming right through the aisles next to me. We got to yell at him and like, you can't get that at home. Bob Backlund's out walking right next to me.
No, no, and then I had met one of the sheep herders. I mean, of course, one of them, Luke, I think, is the one that passed
Yeah.
away. You know, may he rest in peace. But I had seen them at the I want to say the Freeman way back when, and you know, the biggest thing with them was it was me, my older brother, and my dad, and they're walking by, and one of them grabbed my head and he starts licking my head, bro. They did that whole, you know, and I'm looking at my dad like, what the heck, you know? But I mean, that's something I'll always take with me, you know, because it
Yeah.
caught me off guard, man. I was like, I didn't know what was going on, but you know, when I told him that story, he was like, oh yeah, we should do that all the time, you know. So that was pretty cool, you know. It
That
happens.
was the thing, man. That was the thing. Then the arms.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And the cool thing about that I like was that the action figures actually did that. You know, growing up, the arms were the same, so I was like, okay, that's cool. You know, they were able to keep that same arm swing going. That
They
was always
did.
pretty dope, man. And of course, let me ask you this before we wrap it up, man. I mean, the book, of course, you said, I mean, they can go through the actual published distributor, right? When it comes to purchase, and I'm going to put all this stuff on the YouTube channel. That way, people can follow it. But can you go ahead and drop that on real quick?
Where it's going to be found at? Yeah, you can find it at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, or mascotbooks.com. Those are the main outlets where you can get it online.
Okay, and of course, here locally, you said it's by the Pearl, and that was a shop,
Big,
right?
big bookstore at the Pearl. You can find it in Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center Library down there on the west side. They have it physically for sale. They have copies for sale as well.
Okay, cool, man. Yeah, you know,
For
definitely
anybody not in San Antonio or out there, just order it online. They'll get it to you.
nice, man. And of course, like you mentioned, it's going to be both digital and hard copy, correct?
Correct.
Sweet, man. Well, bro, I mean, I appreciate you jumping on here. I mean, I know I had seen your commercials. I said, man, let me get this guy on here. You know, let me go ahead and hold on. I got one real quick coming up. I got my buddy out here, so he can't wait to read it, man. So there we go. We'll get a couple of shows going, man. But yeah, you know, the fact that you jumped on, I appreciate it. You know, is there another book coming? Let me ask you that before we wrap this up.
Well, you know, it was a laborious process. God, fingers crossed, we never have another event like COVID again.
Oh,
Where so much
yeah.
time to be up there. But I do have ideas on a second book, and I have started working on a second book. When will it come out? I don't know. It could be a 5-10 year project. You know, that's one of the things I did like about writing is that, like, you know, obviously this was a different type of writing than if you were writing for a show or something like that.
Right.
But in this type of writing, I didn't really have any deadlines. Like, it was just going to be ready whenever it was ready. I didn't even started pitching it to publishers until I had like a semi-finished product.
Oh, nice.
So I could take my time on it and work on it when I want, you know, here and there. Good thing to balance it. But yeah, I have some ideas for a second book that's coming out. It's kind of similar, got facts and stuff like that, but a little different about it. I think people would enjoy it, but you know, it might take like 5 years or longer before it ever comes together.
Gotcha, man. And of course, like you said, I mean, the first one you had that time, so of course you were able to, you know, knock it out and get it going. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it myself, man. I mean, I'll definitely be stopping by. I'm right here. I'm still out here on the west side, so of course I'll probably go to the culture center and pick one up at the library. And man, I mean, is there anything you want to say before you wrap this up, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope people want to check out the book. It's a totally different type of book. Like I said, it's a book for people who don't normally read books. There's graphs, there's charts, there's a lot of fun fan talk from everything from reality TV to the world of Hollywood. A lot of things in between, a lot of hardcore things about professional wrestling. There's stuff for everybody in there. You're going to get some history. You're going to get some fan talk, some discussion. You're going to get stats. You're going to get illustrations. There's a lot in there. Check it out.
No, for sure, man. And of course, you know, everybody out there, of course, make sure go out there, purchase one. And like you said, I mean, it's available online, digital, hard copy. Ray Lopez, thank you, my man. Thank you for jumping on here. Everybody else, of course, once again, this is Spider Coming Soon podcast. Until next time, follow us.